and maybe we're finishing as we started.
Yeah, just events.
Maybe
Maybe I should have waited. Done that before you press record.
the evidence is it's all there. It's all there. You can't escape it.
Yeah. Ravina's not keen on my singing. Look at her face. Oh, you're on mute. No, you're not on mute. I can't hear you.
I think it was just a bit of lag in the
all right.
A bit of lag. Right. So we're going to go back. We're going to spend a few minutes just going through where we've got to, and then we will review sort of what you've done since last week, and then we will come into land with some thoughts as to how to take this forwards. So we started this looking at mission and manifesto. We've spoken about we want something that's going to give us a trajectory of speed. We can all move very fast, but if you can also move fast in a circle. It doesn't actually get you anywhere. We're just expending lots of energy. So we want to combine movement with direction to create trajectory. That we need to be very clear, and that clarity is something that helps us, but it also helps those we work with and those we work for. And that it's our responsibility, that actually those times where someone says, well, I don't really understand what you do. Okay, that's a signal. I need to go away and I need to reframe this in a way that people are going to understand. That's my responsibility. Little thing this morning, my youngest son got very frustrated at Mel this morning when she didn't understand what he meant by chocolate log. So he wanted to make a chocolate log, and she said, well, which type? There are a couple of them. He just, a chocolate log. And it was a brilliant little argument ensued in which he just insisted it was a chocolate log. Mel had to point out there were several types of chocolate log. Was it a sort of Swiss roll thing? Was it a cake? What was it? And I had to say to him, look, son, if someone doesn't get what you're saying, it's on us to actually sweat the clarity, make that happen. We can't just expect other people to understand what we're saying. Then we spoke about mission, which is really that sense of my vision. That's the impact I want to see as well. And into that, you might throw bits about why, sort of what your reason for doing it, some of those sort of motivational pieces. We took our values, some strategic principles, and that mission, and made those into the manifesto. That's how we move forwards. That's the technologies we choose to use, the qualities, the characteristics of that motion forwards. And then we're going to look today at rounding all of that off in terms of momentum, but I'll do that towards the end. So that was a quick recap. I would love to go now into what you took away from last week. So just a few minutes talking about what you took away, and then go into any of the work that you might have done. So over to you, Pravina and Elsa.
Wow, nice.
Wow.
That's not it.
Okay. No, it is it. No, I've got pages and pages of it. No, I've got loads of it. So, and a blank one for today. You weren't here last week, were you, Pravina?
I was.
Oh, it was the base camp you weren't here for, wasn't it? Were you travelling? You weren't here for one of the things. What I took away was, because I started to chunk it all down when it came to my business model. So I already went through that last week. But what I then did was I added more into it, and then I had a meeting with someone regarding my branding. I know we had the discussion I think that was the base camp discussion, the one around logo and things like that. But I am pushing forward with that. And this thing of raising my visibility and this community thing. So there's storytelling, the community, and for next year, really raising my visibility. So with the business, what else did I do with it since last week? Oh, all the stuff around the visibility, around things like the podcasts and that type of thing, and doing my content schedule as well over it was more than 12. It wasn't just was it 12 weeks? No, it wasn't 12 weeks. It was over, I think I've done mine over 16 weeks, over 16 weeks for the content schedule. So that's where I sort of, I've got it all over the place. I've got it on these bits of paper. I've got it on PowerPoint as well, where I've started to put it all together. So that's me. That's what I've done with it.
Wow, there's a lot there. I think there's definitely something about, so I work across lots of different mediums. I've got paper, I have notes on an iPad, I've got PowerPoint presentations. The recommendation there is that at some stage, and this is sort of three fingers pointing back at me, is to make sure that we've got that discipline of landing it in one place.
Oh, it is. It's in a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, great. But it's somewhere, even if it's not for other people, it's like somewhere I can go and say, right, go back through the steps. What am I focusing on? What's my clarity? And where's that sort of one document that rules them all?
Yeah, no, it's in that PowerPoint presentation.
You haven't seen Elsa's PowerPoint clip. So everything is on PowerPoint.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Sarah and AQ are very familiar with my PowerPoints.
So do you use that as a way of, we won't go into, we'll pick that apart some other time. That's but yeah, whatever works, but somewhere where we can go that we feel familiar with, whether that's pen and paper, whether that's a physical file, whether that's a document on a website or on a drive somewhere we can go, and it's kind of that place where we reorientate ourselves. You know, if annually or 6 monthly we're updating it, it's the one place you go to then make those changes. And we describe it as a double diamond, this idea of you have a point of divergence. So, you know, you've just finished version 1 of your document. That's sort of a single object. And then you go back to working on paper and having ideas and those kind of thoughts you have in the shower or whilst you're doing a bit of exercise. And then we need to come back to another point of convergence. And that would be your Mark II document, that we get into this cycle of saying, well, there's lots going on. Sometimes you sit on something for a couple of weeks or you let something breathe. But at some point, we need to come back to these moments where it kind of reconnects with at least something that we can say, right, as of, 2 months ago, that was the place where my most up-to-date thinking was captured and locked in. And I'm now recycling through that.
Yeah, and I have those review dates scheduled in my calendar.
I love that.
I am very organized. I may not always come across very organized, but I am actually very well organized.
It's one of the last things I do with the business teams is an annual schedule of review. It's always the last thing that comes in because it's so far away from most people's way of looking at things to say, great, you've just finished this document. When are you going to review it? What do you mean? Well, you need to put a date in the diary and you need to make a commitment and you need to be able to present back to the management team that you've done this. You've gone back and this thing has had a new look of paint and been re-understood because, the world's moving at a really fast pace. What makes any of us think that we can leave something like this on the shelf for 2 years and it's still going to be completely relevant? Pravina, I'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts from last session and then any work that you've done?
I've done very little work, to be honest, with that unexpected travel of mine. Oh my goodness. Okay. I got a scare. All my writing, I thought I lost it again. Yes. So the first thing I did was to give some thought to this comfort zone. You remember we spoke about that, and I admitted that I had kind of limited myself to what I was comfortable with, and I would give it a thought. I gave it a lot of thought, and I haven't changed one word from there, and I'll tell you why. Because for me, it is about approaching that community. Till now, whoever I've worked with have actually come to me, which is why that became my niche by default. my challenge to myself is to go to that community. And there's a lot of people there that I need to go to. And that is what I said I'm going to give myself time to do for the next 1 year. I'm not pushing 6 months. I'm giving myself 1 year because I know exactly how I work on this. So that's all I'm doing right now. That, and the second, there's one more thought that came to my mind was on cultural diversity in the teams that I coach. Now, there is a natural affinity to the South Asian group.
Mhm.
I said the first 6 months I want to go into my comfort zone to approach that comfort zone, and the next 6 months, which is July to December, my target would be an audience that has a few, maybe 2 or 3. I'm not looking at more than that. Two or three that don't belong to the Southeast Asian community at all. That's my target. And that's not so to get some kind of cultural diversity within the clientele. I think it's more for me. See how I would react, how I would deal with that cultural diversity. And where this is coming from is I went on a trek recently with someone, and very young guy, and he said that he had been through this whole leadership training program. He was one of those that was handpicked as one of those bright sparks and sent on the leadership. And what he absolutely did not appreciate was the approach to cultural differences. The whole training program was insensitive to it. So that kind of, sparked a thought in my brain on how I would approach, somebody who is from a completely different cultural background. So I want to work on that. That would be also pushing me a little out of my comfort zone. I'm really curious about how I would deal with that. So that's something. So those are the only 2 things I worked on where that comfort zone bit was concerned, and that's what I put down.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
On the details of the how I would work, I think I mentioned last time about 6 days a week. 6 days a week and 6 hours a day is something that is kind of set in stone for me. I have it on my phone reminders on what I'm doing, which is working very well. It's kind of telling me at what time to what time I am on social media. I can tell you I don't 100% stick to it, but I do have a calendar for that. So I know I'm not missing it. Only thing is I don't have it scheduled for every day, which is what I'm working on now. That's my job for the next 15 days before January 1st, is to get that on how many hours, because right now I find I'm putting in about 4 hours every day into either looking at courses, social media posts, admin work, and all of that stuff. Need to get a bit more organized on that. And so that's what I want to get that into a schedule for every day. Right now I have something scheduled for twice a week, and that's working very well. Now I want to do it for every day, which is my task for the next 2 weeks. I've set aside 1 day to personally step out and go and meet people. To be honest, I've never done that before. I probably did 2 or 3 of those things of actually stepping out and meeting people, and one turned out to be really good. So I've set 1 day to actually go out and meet people, whether that is to get clientele or whether that is just to network, to learn as a part of self-investment. Whichever way that goes, 1 day a week is for that. In terms of my tools, I'm still working through that. I did mention it would be a mix of visualization, questions, and meditation. Now, I am trained in what is called a 6-phase meditation technique. So I want to bring that. I want to focus a little more on it, because some of the people that I've spoken to just casually were quite fascinated by that. I think I can use that very well if I kind of put that into a structured form. I have a strongman worked out. I just want to integrate that into coaching. I'll have to do that very, very sensitively, because not very many people will take to it, but I do have 1 or 2 people. I have 2 people on retainers, so I'm going to try it on them first. They're quite game for it. So that's something that over the next year, again, not pushing myself, giving myself 6 months time to bring that in as a powerful tool into what I'm doing and offer that as even a standalone package. Right now, I'm thinking in terms of package for a more holistic approach, which would include things like goal mapping, wheel of life, etc. That goes through the whole works. I'm saying a package of 10 sessions. I'm even open to doing one session. But however, there's always one session which will be for free, which would be more the kind of introductory session with a little demo, etc., just to be sure that both parties are not wasting their time and don't feel like they haven't got what they wanted out of this out of the whole conversation. I would go only for online at the moment because I do not have a proper office space where I can invite anybody. It would be, I haven't thought of, Elsa said something very interesting last week about walking in the park and, all those various other things that one can actually do. At the moment, that's not what I'm looking for. I would like a more formal setting. So I'm looking at online only right now, unless somebody has some place that I can go to and, do the sessions over there. What else did I write? Yeah, that's all I've written. I to be honest, I haven't given it too much time, but this I've put in, and I know. And for me, I type everything because I can't read my own writing very bad. So so I have it all in one place. I have it like a nice Word document, and I'm just kind of building on it as we go. Yeah.
Ace. Okay. I think I really love the way you took the challenge and actually didn't then kind of try and force in some challenge to yourself, but actually said, well, no, the act of moving into the space, not waiting for the space to come to me, that's the stretch. So I thought that was really powerful. And it sounds like there's probably still some work to do with that kind of manifesto piece in terms of, as you continue to understand the qualities of that and, exactly maybe how the package works. Those are things that are always in flux a little bit, because as we change those things up and I actually 6-week packages don't work for this reason. So we're going to, it's got to be a minimum of 8, or I didn't want to introduce the meditation, but actually I found that my practice isn't as powerful without it. So now I do, but this is how I mitigate the fact that some people may not feel as comfortable, right at the beginning of the session. So those things can be in flux, and we take those learnings and we fold them back in.
Mm-hmm.
Ace.
Yeah.
Sarah, any thoughts on that?
No, I'm just loving hearing the power of doing this work from both Elsa and Pravina. I think I really enjoyed the bits that you also picked up on there with Pravina around that, around the what she said about kind of going out to them. That also kind of rang a bell for me. Yeah, no, I think I think you're both doing some great work on that, and you've obviously taken what's been presented and turned it into something powerful for you. So I can't wait to see it in action.
Before we move on, I would love to get, bearing in mind this is the first time we've done this, this is the first time I've taught this in this way as well. What have been the benefits of going through this? If any.
I had to be the ostrich, kind of lift my head out from under the sand because of the work that I did this past week, especially. Not the first exercise. I think it's the second exercise that was most powerful because that was, you could say a lot of different things, like this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do it. How are you going to actually do it? That's where you start digging in, and then you see what you've done till now, and then you kind of probe a little into what actually didn't work. Why didn't you reach where you thought you would reach, or why didn't you get what you thought you wanted, etc. And then you kind of, have to accept a few facts. Some things come up. You the truth comes out. And then that's a powerful moment. That's like, oh, okay, right. And that's something that you have to work on. So yeah, I found the second exercise seriously powerful, really powerful. I think I was in an exchange of messages with Elsa. She kind of asked me, you seemed a little, distracted. Actually, I was actually distracted because it was hitting me quite powerfully. And I was putting my head down and I was like typing into the notes on my phone and, kind of scratching my head and putting my head down. And I was like, oh, shucks. I mean, was I kidding myself all this while? Some things were just coming up. It was really powerful.
Wow.
It was really powerful. Yeah.
Thank you, Pravina. That's great to hear.
I think for me, what it did was it really brought me back around to the reason that I decided to do this in the first place. First of all, sort of 20 years ago, and then, or 19 years ago, and then again, sort of 6 months ago, and revisiting what is it that I really want from this, because I'd started to listen to other people rather than listening to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this was presented wasn't in a, this is what we think you should be doing. Yes, you challenged our thinking. And when Pravina talks about, the comfort zone, I did question, okay, so where am I stretching myself and where am I staying comfortable? And that really came through it was a 2.5 hour meeting that I had with the guy. He's actually a firefighting hip hop artist who I've got doing my stuff.
Firefighting hip hop artist.
Yeah. He's a fire.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But he does do all this stuff as well. So yeah, about 2.5 hours that I spent with him, really digging deep into who I am, what it is, what my personal brand is, what I want to present out there, what do I represent, what do I want to be known for. This thing of the storytelling, the community, the creative thing, the outdoor bit, when I can do the outdoor bit out here, and how I'm going to factor that into the visibility and raising my visibility. And he did have to rein me in a bit. Some of the stuff I wanted to do. I said you might want to think about, pacing yourself a bit here. So although you challenged us, it didn't come across as this is what you should do, this is what you need to do, which I appreciated, because there's been quite a lot of stuff that I've done over the past 6 months that has felt much more directive. It wasn't coaching, but it felt much more directive. Like, this is what you need to do this, this, and this, to get this result. You have to do A, B, and C. And that doesn't sit comfortably with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Thank you for that. And I'll ask the corollary question in a moment. But I think that for me sort of speaks to actually why I built this, was that the number of, so I tend to work with small businesses that have got off the ground and they've got teams, and now they don't know what it is that they're doing anymore. It was fine when there was 2 or 3 of them around a table, but now the teams are scaling and they're not quite sure. It doesn't seem to be holding together coherently in the same way. And what I typically find is that the original vision was never particularly well documented at the beginning. So it was kind of an impression of what the vision was, but it was never actually, they never sweated the clarity. They never got to that point where they'd articulated it. And it sort of migrates then over time. It gets eroded away. Something that's so intangible as an unarticulated vision then just gets kind of crushed and distorted. And then the activities, the manifesto is subject to opportunism. So they find themselves doing things that actually don't really serve the original vision, and they'd have known that had they been able to articulate it. But the how of what they're doing, they've never had a chance to sit down and say, well, wait a minute, we're doing these 12 things and only 3 of those are really important, or actually 6 of them are just killing us. Why are we even? So that moment to take stock. So, and keeping these, articulating them and then keeping them central is sort of the purpose of this, that then you are always coming back to that, right? What am I actually trying to achieve? Because once you've got that, you can actually shift what I'm doing. What you're doing can move as long as it's still serving that original purpose. So that's really great. Thank you both for that. In what ways has it not been helpful? In what ways maybe has it been unhelpful or not constructive?
It hasn't been unhelpful or not constructive. I think I may have resented having to think so much on certain things, but hey, that's okay. I just had to do it.
that is all part of the service, Pravina. That is genuine, and actually, I would say to that, it is uncomfortable. It is not. If it was easy, we
yes,
would all
it
do
is.
it. The struggle I have with, and I've lost clients over this because they've just not wanted to move forwards. They've not wanted to do this work. And
Yeah.
you poke and you poke and you ask the questions and you dig in. And actually, what you typically find is that there's a mismatch somewhere in their vision and their values, and it's not quite there. And actually, they just like making money, and it seems to be working, so they're making money. So we're just going to crack on. But I don't want Steve coming in and asking me questions that are going to make me change, make me do things I'm not, that are going to be tough and might jeopardize what's currently making money in favor of something which actually in 10 years I might be really proud of. So, actually the discomfort is something I recognize, and maybe something I should be clear about at the beginning.
Is that you done, Pravina?
Yeah.
So for me, it was around the language, because I tend to use vision, mission, values, and then go into strategy. However, you gave a really clear description and interpretation of the terminology that you use and the reason that you use it. So whereas usually I would have become quite resistant to some of the language because it doesn't align with the way that I use that particular terminology, because you set out your stall really, really early on and said, this is the language basically that I'm going to use. This is, the reason that I'm using it. I found that it really easy to then get on board with. It isn't the language that I'm using when I'm doing my business model. I'm still using the language that I use, but I found myself much more respectful of the language that you were using because you gave that explanation. And again, it wasn't this is the right way to do it. This is the language that you have to use. You were very clear about, you might have your own words,
yep,
that you choose to use, but this is how I do it. I think the only thing for me that sometimes I'm uncomfortable with is the word teaching. Because I find myself becoming defensive if someone or uses the word teach, or I feel as though I'm trying to be taught something.
Yep.
And it is, again, it's to do, with that sort of linguistic part of me, sort of focusing in on the language.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that I would say around that.
Ravina.
Here's one cultural difference. You see, that word teaching, I noticed it, but didn't pay attention to it at all. It just floated past.
It's a good one. It's a good one to note, though. And actually, thank you for bringing that up, because it feels a bit. So I don't do classroom teaching. I don't sit down and sort of everyone's lined up behind desks, kind of. But I do. Much of this is new to the clients that I work with. So I've been looking for the right word, and I've kind of landed on teaching, but actually it isn't. So I think that's a great one to pick up on. Actually, both sides of that. That actually maybe I can describe that slightly differently.
I think it's because
Yeah.
teaching, on the spectrum, when you look at the spectrum of coaching and mentoring, and when you go right to the far end of the spectrum, and then you hit teaching, and even on mentoring, it's like a no-go area for me.
Yep.
So I think that's probably where it stems from for me.
I'm definitely going to bear that one in mind and give that some thought of my own. With that, we're gonna come into land last sort of half an hour, last 20 minutes, half an hour. Some thoughts on what you might want to do with this. So I genuinely believe understanding your mission and your manifesto, that is what I want to achieve, that vision of the future and the impact I want to have and how I do it, has inherent intrinsic value. That being clear about that allows us to be clearer with ourselves. It creates better decision making. It allows us to be clearer with other people. What I'm going to do now is just go through very quickly what something you could do with this to move it forwards. And sort of I'm recognizing that both of you have your own approach to your business strategy and how you do this. But I don't think it hurts to go through. Oh, where's my presentation gone? Doesn't hurt just to go through what I think can be done with it later on. So moving forwards then, we've worked on mission and we've worked on manifesto by the definitions that I laid out. And what I like to do is I like to add this to strategic intent. And I actually break this down into 3 areas. So that for me is then what momentum is about. And this here, and actually, let me just bring this up.
You just flick back to the previous screen just quickly. I just want to get that done. Are we going to have a copy of these slides, by the way?
I can definitely do that.
Right. Okay, got it.
So I will send those through. This then is a 1-pager. So this is what I use for to then turn this into something that I hope I trust will be useful for the teams I work with. That actually this is their one place to start when they wake up on a Monday morning and they're like, Crumbs, as the owner of this business, what do I do now? Where do I want to be putting my attention? That if the whirlwind that has appeared by Friday, it's like, right, if I reset on the Monday, what does this actually look like? What is it I'm supposed to be moving forwards? And the top left-hand corner is momentum. So the framework is built around momentum, direction, and stability. Momentum is that energy, it's that drive, it's the why, it's the activities. Direction is about creating focus and making sure that we've got that sense of trajectory. And then stability is typically about what are we measuring to make sure that we're actually progressing against this. And the way I would use this is that afterwards, you'd have this as the 1-pager, and then normally then you'd have pages afterwards sort of breaking down kind of the strategic delivery resource. So the bit that I would like to focus on is top left, we've got mission, we've got manifesto. Of course, you're going to be putting sort of a short mission, a short manifesto there, but that's something that you can have built out on a longer document, the sort of please turn over document on the back. And then at any one time, I create 3 pieces of strategic intent. And these actually then lean back into some of the strategic principles that we spoke about last week. I'm not sure, we didn't land all of them, but I would then be picking 3 things that I think I need to be moving forwards on right now. And I'll give an example in just a minute. But one of those will always be a strategic objective, a strategic intent. So number 1, strategic, something that I think there's a piece of strategy that I think I need to be leaning into. The next would be around my delivery. And the last would be around resource, which includes finances. So I very rarely talk about finances, but I talk about resource. And then actually HR for me comes under that. Assets, plants, finances, in, out, profit margins, all of that would sit under resource. Again, not everyone runs like that, and that's absolutely fine. Let me just, there is a link in the chat to a copy of this. So if you do want to use this, if you think that's useful. Let me just switch my camera over. Let's see if this works. Right. So this is a little bit of nakedness on my part. Can you see this? Or is that the right way round for one? Because it's always back to front on my screen.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yes, it's the right way
Yeah.
round.
So this is my company's. This is a review I've started in November. My mission is energy and strategy. I provide momentum, direction, and stability for healthy business growth in my clients. I have 3 areas of provision. I do coaching, non-advisory, sort of non-exec advisory positions, and I do kind of key strategic work. All of it is around a framework, this framework, momentum, direction, stability, which I've sort of named the Praxis framework. For me this year, my strategic is that this is the year of the brand. So I've just gone through a rebrand. This is about me actually kind of setting out a stall. I need a new website. I need content plans. I need all of those bits. I'll break those down in a moment. In terms of delivery, I need the first draft of my finished framework. It needs to be replicable and it needs to be robust. And in terms of resource, actually, I need a proper sales funnel and I need content to get people into it. So actually, if I wake up on a Monday morning and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing, I need to be looking at one of those. I'm either pushing forwards the brand, or I'm working towards that finished version of the framework, or I'm working into my sales funnel. And then on this next one, strategic priorities, I'm actually laying out, well, 1 is strategic. 1A, I need high-level content strategy and output. 1B, a web presence that communicates our value and attracts leads. For 2, I need to have done some more work on the core principles, and I need the assets of the framework in order. And 3 or 3A is sales funnel and prospect communications. So actually, probably for the next 3 months, if I'm not doing those regularly, I'm not moving my business forwards. And then you come into, at this point, this is sort of this is the kind of compression of the spring. This bit down here then is, well, that's brand, framework, awareness. So I've broken each one of these down into a single word. And then I've got 4 actions in here, but this list needs to be a lot longer. Series of actions, who's going to do them and when are they going to get done by? So this is very tactical then. This is about making sure that I'm actually getting that trajectory. I'm not just moving fast, I'm actually moving things forwards in the direction I want to be going. And then here, this is where I would do, what is it I am measuring in order to ensure that I am progressing? So I'd love to ask any questions that you might have on that. And if, depending on how long that discussion takes, the next thing would then be to see if you wanted to build out 3 strategic intents.
I think for me, because I'm so highly reflective, that I find it quite challenging to do things sort of off the hoof.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a moment of realization as you were doing that, and it was just based on the conversation just before that around the number of sessions of coaching. And you know what came to me is I don't think I want to be, or I want to have a bare minimum number of customers who I'm coaching on, like on a weekly or even a bi-weekly type basis over 8 weeks. I really want to be coaching people, doing half-day coaching sessions or full-day coaching sessions with people, and doing it very much around the storytelling.
Interesting.
And creating that story. And the other thing that came through that I really enjoy is the team coaching. And I hadn't factored team coaching in, and I love doing the team coaching. And I love performing. So I love doing the training, but I don't want a load of hassle of having to, you know, I've got goodness knows how many programs that I've written, way in excess of 50, somewhere between 50 and 100 training programs that I've designed. But I don't want to be doing so much of that side of things, but I do want to be out there doing the facilitation part of it and the action learning sets and that side of things. So I don't know how come they hadn't really played in before today, but yeah, they came through really strongly. So when you asked earlier about sort of part of the value of this, it's that it sparks thoughts for me that aren't necessarily related directly to the conversations that happen, but it just, I don't know, it just creates those sort of thought showers for me. Good.
I mean, you know, I'm very happy with that being the value. Actually, understanding, wait a minute, I have a preference for, you know, for somebody to find themselves 2 years into their journey doing you know, 2-hour sessions a day, 2 1-hour sessions a day, only to find out, you know, a couple of years later that actually, had they given it a moment's thought, they'd realized they prefer half-day or whole-day sessions. You know, that's a huge win. And the need to make sure that you're reflecting your the team coaching as well, and the ability to then lay those intention. Because actually, one of the things that I know from having gone through this process myself, having done this for my own business as I've been going through the rebrand, is then to say, well, actually, the facilitation, which I love, tends to be multi-day on-site facilitation. Well, actually, that really upsets the flow if I've got, you know, a couple of coaching clients and I've got some non-exec clients who are on retainer, and I'm trying to book in some sort of strategic workshops, you know, 1 day a week over 4 weeks, which is a normal way of doing it. I'm like, actually, a 3-day session facilitation really just blows my schedule up. So I've had to take it out of my list of things that I offer. And now I'm looking, and now I'm going through, I'm actually trying to plot out, in an ideal world, what would my percentage of those different bits be? Actually, how much of my income would come from the non-exec advisory piece? How much would come from, you know, one-off strategic engagements, you know, say a month, 4 sessions over a month? And how much is going to come in from coaching? To then work out, you know, and what does that mean in terms of the time that I give myself off and the way that I choose to structure my days. So it's a really lovely opportunity to do it for free because it's on paper. Get some of those learnings done nice and early.
And the other thing that I've realised that I did, and it's something that Pravina touched on as well in the last session, and as you did as well, Steve, was around working out, well, how many of these will I need to do at what price to bring in, you know, the annual income, you know, that I would like to bring in. And I realised that I'd already done that piece of work as well. So I can go back, revisit it with the pricing for these things, because I think that's also really important for me personally, is to work out, well, what is it, and to treat it as an annual income that I need.
Yeah.
Because it's rare that there will be a steady income with the type of work that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to be rare that we're going to be able to be reliant on a certain monthly income. And I think that's quite a big mindset change when you become an entrepreneur as well. Is not to think, when, you have a month where you're not hitting, if you were to average out your annual salary, that you're not hitting it, that you don't sort of crumble with that. And to think, right, well, over the year, what do I need to be bringing in? And also when you talked about sort of, and I know this is a piece of work that Pravina and I have both been doing independently, is looking at the hours that we work and how many days and how many weeks will that be over, and when would we like to be taking the time off. So I've even factored in when I would like to be taking that time off, and how many hours I would be prepared to still be working during some of those term times, so that I don't take my foot off the accelerator completely. So there are so many things that have come out of the couple of sessions that we've done so far. So here we go.
I think, again, like going through that, actually to account as well for the number of, how many days do you need to then sit and go through your accounts, and actually, if we are not, one of the nice things for me is because the non-exec work is annual and ongoing, and if I'm proving my worth, they keep me on. So I've got clients who I've been with for years, so I have an underlying income, but then the income on top of that, I have to go and find somebody who wants coaching and then walk them in and see if they want it, and eventually some of those will pay. That's a sales funnel, but actually there's quite a lot of energy taken in driving a sales funnel, none of which is billable. So now all of my so actually one of the things you would measure there is, one of my strategic objectives once I have a sales funnel is understand the numbers. For every 10 people I meet, how many of those are likely to become clients? How many do I need in my sales funnel at any time? How long does each lead take to get them to a yes or a no decision point? All of those sorts of things then become things you need to factor in.
One of the other things that Pravina was talking about as well, the day a week and going out, and this is a discussion or conversation that Pravina and I have had before, around getting yourself out there, getting known, raising your visibility. And where do I want to be going to? Because it isn't just the network events. Yes, I want to hang around sort of 5-star coffee shops. So, I'll go even higher. And that's what I used to do. And then have those conversations, because I will spark up conversations with people in coffee shops and lobbies and that type of thing. So it's sometimes just hanging around some of those types of places, and it's the opportune conversations that you sometimes have with people. So I'll be working all of that time, so I'm not just sitting there with a cup of coffee or a bottle of water for 5 hours. I'll sit there and I will work, but it just gives that opportunity. And that's where I want to find, it's got to be the place where you want to find your ideal customers. That's it. As well. Where are they going to be hanging out? So where are you going to be hanging out in Dubai then, Pravina? And am I going to be hanging out with you?
My first,
and I'm going to be your first remember. Not going to let you.
There you go. My first client came from on the plane, and I just used to say, I'm leaving my job, I'm becoming a coach, and it was a corporate piece of work. Got it completely by myself through a passenger in business class on the plane, who was like, I'm looking for a coach to coach some of my people. Would you like to come in and coach them? I coached them for 2 years. Like, it was a brilliant gig. I was like, it's such a great underlying income to start with as a coach.
Yep.
Really good.
Mine was having my medical. I went to have my medical for my visa, and the person who was taking my blood, the phlebotomist, she said, "Oh, you're a company owner." Started asking me about my company. I said, "Oh, both of my daughters." And she was sending the other people away, saying, "Go for X-ray first." So she didn't have the people in the queue for the blood test. She was sending them down for the chest X-ray first of all. So yeah, had the conversation with me there
Brilliant.
about both her daughters and saying she's going to speak with them about having coaching with me. So yeah, it is those opportune conversations that you have.
Yeah.
But you've got to put yourself out there. It's not going to happen sitting behind your desk in your house. No. Or on your sofa in your house.
And that's one of the interesting things about our life right now. But I'm aware that I don't want to go off point.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, I was just saying I'm actually thinking of changing up. So I go to the gym to go to the gym, but I'm aware that the people, I picked a cheap and cheerful gym, but I'm like, actually, no one here is probably my ideal client. What happens if I go to David Lloyd or to the Village gym down the road, which is 3 times the cost? But if you wanna meet business executives, go golfing and to a nice gym.
That's one of the things I'm doing, Steve. It's one of the things on my list once I've got this apartment sold, and I have got a buyer now, right. Is there's a certain place that's like a lifestyle hub. So, and not only is it quite high end, but also they have a whole area where people can work as well. And also you can use some of the rooms for doing workshops.
Really good.
And that type of thing. So exactly what you were saying there. So I see that it's money invested for me personally in my self-care, also for the business.
I like that. I'm with you on that one. Pravina, I'd love to understand your thoughts, having seen seeing that canvas and kind of what I've outlined as potential next steps, and see if you have any thoughts to that or anything wider.
No, I just downloaded it and I have it on the side of my screen. I'm looking at it. I tell you, the first thought had nothing to do with coaching and everything to do with my handwriting, thinking, how am I going to write over there? No, but it makes sense. I kind of have a little format on my Word document. I can just, pull it out and put it there. I think this is almost like mind mapping, right? This goes from here to there, to there, to there, to there. And I like that. It kind of appeals to me. So I'll know better once I put in some work on it. I've never done something like that before, so I'm shocked.
You can do a mural on your wall.
There you go, yeah. Get it printed out in A0. Super cute. I think this is, so for me, this is kind of in response to something Elsa said earlier about, not telling you what to do, but instead providing a format in which you can put your own content.
Yeah.
And the idea of this is it's only as good as it is helpful for any one individual, but in order to sort of create some dots and that mind mapping thing where you can orientate yourself very quickly. You just had a terrible Wednesday, everything's going to pop, but Thursday morning you take a deep breath. Where do I start? Okay, one place I can go and just get that moment of clarity to say, if I get one thing done today, it's my strategic year of the brand. I actually need to be looking at some content strategies, or I need to be working on my website, or I need to be doing something here. And just having that place to kind of reduce the stress levels a little bit, find that little bit of focus, and be able to move forwards intentionally. Elsa's already doing her beautiful mind trick with all those bits of paper. I imagine if we turn the camera around, there's just string all over there, just connecting all the dots.
I've got flip chart sized post-it notes.
Yes.
So I use those all around the house, in various rooms in the house. Yeah.
So I wasn't wholly wrong then.
No.
I'm mindful of time. I've really enjoyed this. I'm mindful that there are lots of little bits I could probably improve on in terms of delivery, but if we were to leave it here, is this a good place, or is there anything on your mind in terms of, I don't understand, or could I have some help with, or if only I could find an answer to this, it would help me in the following ways? Anything we need to sort of really work to do to close off in the last 5-10 minutes?
Follow-up. not immediately, maybe in a couple of weeks, like one session for
Right.
an hour or maybe 2 hours, where we come back with what we've done this far, what's taken us forwards, where are we fallen back on, do we need to revisit stuff, because these things are not really set in stone, are they? They just keep changing, and the more you reflect and the more you interact with people, there's a lot more that's going to be changing.
Okay.
And that kind of, because it's just started happening to me, it kind of shakes me up, because just when I thought I knew it all, I suddenly don't know anything. I'm like, ooh, starting again. Oh my goodness, where's that paper? So
Okay.
it would be really good if it would be really good if with these 3 sessions, let's see the work that both of us can do, and if we could come back in a couple of weeks, a month, 2 months later,
Would
be great.
8th of January, the week after, Monday the 8th, or Monday the 15th?
No, I need another week after that. My boys are here.
Boys are here.
Sorry.
15th. 15th. How does the 15th sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one for you both as people who've so we won't do a we're going to meet and we're not going to stop if you're not here. This is a different one. This is as a definite follow-up. So if you can't make it, let us know and we will put it back. So we will find a date, a Monday, this time on a Monday that works for both of you. And so just let me know. But otherwise, that is in the diary for the 15th. That's in the base camp diary.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Ace.
Yep. No, that would be really good. That was one of the things I was going to say as well, Pravina. I think the other thing will be once I start working on that sort of one pager, I think I will probably have questions regarding it.
Right. Yeah.
Once I start working on it.
Okay.
Wow.
And that one pager, don't use it if it's not helpful. Don't crowbar stuff in. But if that approach is helpful, feel free to use it.
Sometimes it's worth using.
Thank you so much.
It's useful.
I have found this really useful. So a big thank you to you, because it's certainly added value.
Good.
Even more value to base camp.
I love that.
Yeah, it really, really has for me. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. In which case, like on that level, thank you both for kind of following through with it. We did say it was a bit of an experiment, but I think it was both an experiment in terms of the expedition, but also this is not something I have delivered in this way before. So you've both been very gracious in sort of following along and letting me do that. So right back at you.
Did we teach you, Steve?
I have learnt, I have a lot of notes about how I would improve this and change this up. So thank you. And also, actually, I'd already started going through my own before we began the expedition, but going through it has really forced me to move on through it. I actually think I've since the version you've got is a newer canvas because of these sessions, and I actually think that the stability section will probably be completely reworked in time if I go through something like the same process. So it's been super helpful for me sharpening my own thoughts and my own connections around how I use mission, manifesto, momentum, direction, and stability with my clients to help them hopefully achieve those. So thank you.
What will the next base camp expedition be focused? I've got a couple of questions. So one is, what will the next expedition be focusing on? Any thoughts around that? And when will it be?